question is whether the receptacle internal to a bathroom light or fan fixture, specifically the internal receptacle used to plug in the fan, requires ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, protection. The answer is no, it does not. To understand this, consider the relevant definitions from the National Electrical Code, or NEC. Section 210.8 addresses ground fault circuit interrupter protection for personnel in dwelling units. It states that all 125-volt, single-phase, 15 and 20 amp receptacles installed in specified locations, including bathrooms, must have GFCI protection. However, this requirement hinges on the definitions of receptacle and outlet as provided in Article 100 of the NEC. The NEC defines a receptacle as a contact device installed at the outlet for the connection of an attachment plug. An outlet, in turn, is defined as a point in the wiring system at which current is taken to supply utilization equipment. The receptacle inside the bathroom light or fan fixture is not installed at an outlet. Instead, it is installed inside the fixture itself and serves to connect the fan to the fixture's power supply. It is not a point in the building's wiring system from which power is drawn, but rather a component within the appliance. Because the receptacle is not installed at an outlet, as defined by the NEC, it does not fall under the GFCI protection requirements outlined in Section 210.8a. The GFCI protection requirement applies to receptacles that are part of the building's wiring system and are accessible for plugging in various utilization equipment. The internal receptacle of the light or fan fixture is not considered part of the building's wiring system in the same way. It is an integral part of the appliance itself. To further clarify, consider the intent of GFCI protection. GFCIs are designed to protect people from electric shock by detecting ground faults and quickly interrupting the circuit. This protection is crucial in locations like bathrooms where the risk of electric shock is high due to the presence of water and conductive surfaces. Receptacles that are readily accessible to users in these locations are therefore required to have GFCI protection. However, the receptacle inside the light or fan fixture is not readily accessible to users. It is enclosed within the fixture and is only intended for use with the fan itself. The risk of electric shock from this receptacle is therefore much lower than from a standard receptacle installed in the bathroom wall. The NEC focuses on safety by requiring GFCI protection where it is most needed. This includes readily accessible receptacles in bathrooms, kitchens, and other locations where the risk of electric shock is elevated. The internal receptacle of a light or fan fixture does not present the same level of risk and is therefore not subject to the same requirements. It is important to consult the latest edition of the NEC and local codes for specific requirements in specific areas. Local regulations may have additional requirements or exceptions that are not covered by the NEC. The NEC is a comprehensive document, and it is essential to understand the definitions and requirements carefully to ensure compliance and safety. Remember to always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work, especially in potentially hazardous locations like bathrooms. An electrician can assess the specific situation and ensure that all electrical installations meet the applicable codes and safety standards. The interpretation of the NEC and the application of its rules can be complex. Therefore, it is always best to seek professional guidance to ensure that the work is done safely and correctly. Here is a summary of the key points. 1. The receptacle inside a bathroom light or fan fixture is not considered to be installed at an outlet as defined by the NEC. 2. It is an integral part of the appliance itself and not part of the building's wiring system. 3. The risk of electric shock from this receptacle is lower than from a standard receptacle in the bathroom. 4. The NEC requires GFCI protection for readily accessible receptacles in bathrooms and other high-risk locations. 5. Always consult the latest edition of the NEC and local codes for specific requirements. 6. Always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work. Consider a scenario involving the installation of a new bathroom light and fan fixture. The homeowner might be concerned about whether the internal receptacle requires GFCI protection. By understanding the NEC definitions and requirements, the homeowner can be confident that the installation is compliant and safe without needing to add GFCI protection to the internal receptacle. However, It is important to ensure that the circuit supplying the fixture is properly grounded and that all other electrical work is done in accordance with the NEC and local codes. Another related question might be whether the light fixture itself requires GFCI protection. In general, light fixtures do not require GFCI protection unless they are specifically designed to be used in wet or damp locations where the risk of electric shock is higher. The NEC addresses lighting requirements in various sections, including those related to wet and damp locations. It is important to consult these sections to determine the specific requirements for light fixtures in different environments. For example, outdoor lighting or lighting installed near swimming pools or hot tubs may require GFCI protection to enhance safety. Consider another scenario where the homeowner is replacing an existing light and fan fixture. The existing fixture may or may not have an internal receptacle. If the new fixture does not have an internal receptacle, the homeowner may need to install a separate receptacle for the fan. In this case, the separate receptacle would be subject to the GFCI protection requirements for bathroom receptacles. It is important to carefully consider the wiring and connections when replacing electrical fixtures to ensure that everything is done safely and correctly. Remember that the NEC is a living document that is updated regularly to reflect changes in technology and safety standards. It is important to stay current with the latest edition of the NEC and any local amendments to ensure that all electrical work is compliant. In addition to GFCI protection, there are other important safety considerations for electrical installations in bathrooms. These include proper grounding, the use of listed and labeled equipment, and the avoidance of overloading circuits. Bathrooms are considered to be wet locations, and electrical equipment used in these locations must be suitable for the environment. This means that the equipment must be designed to withstand moisture and corrosion. Proper grounding is essential to prevent electric shock. All electrical equipment in the bathroom should be properly grounded to provide a path for fault current to flow back to the source. This helps to trip the circuit breaker or fuse and de-energize the circuit in the event of a ground fault. Overloading circuits can lead to overheating and fires. It is important to ensure that the circuit supplying the bathroom is not overloaded with too many appliances or fixtures. The circuit breaker or fuse is designed to protect the circuit from overloading, but it is important to avoid overloading the circuit in the first place. Regular inspections of electrical installations in bathrooms can help to identify potential problems before they become hazardous. Look for signs of damage, such as cracked or broken receptacles, frayed wires, or water leaks. If any problems are found, they should be corrected immediately by a qualified electrician. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician for any electrical work and follow the NEC and local codes. Understanding the NEC definitions of receptacle and outlet is crucial for determining GFCI protection requirements in bathrooms. The internal receptacle of a light or fan fixture is not subject to these requirements because it is not considered to be installed at an outlet. However, it is important to ensure that all other electrical work is done safely and correctly in accordance with the NEC and local codes. Here are some additional points to consider. 1. The NEC is not a law in itself, but it is often adopted by state and local governments as part of their building codes. This means that compliance with the NEC is legally required in many jurisdictions. 2. The NEC is developed by the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, a non-profit organization that works to reduce the risk of fire and other hazards. 3. The NEC is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and safety standards. The latest edition of the NEC should always be consulted for any electrical work. 4. Electrical work can be dangerous, and it should only be performed by qualified individuals. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a licensed electrician to do the work for you. 5. Before starting any electrical work, it is important to turn off the power to the circuit at the circuit breaker or fuse box. This will help to prevent electric shock. 6. Always use the proper tools and equipment for electrical work. This includes insulated screwdrivers, pliers, and wire strippers. 7. Never work on electrical equipment while standing in water or on a wet surface. This increases the risk of electric shock. 8. If you are unsure about any aspect of electrical work, it is best to consult with a qualified electrician. 9. Electrical inspections are often required for new construction and renovations. These inspections help to ensure that the electrical work is done in accordance with the NEC and local codes. 10. Electrical permits may be required for certain types of electrical work. It is important to check with your local building department to determine whether a permit is required. The information in this narration should not be considered exhaustive and does not cover all possible scenarios. Always consult the current edition of the National Electrical Code and any applicable local codes and regulations. Engage a qualified and licensed electrician for any electrical work or interpretations of electrical codes. The proper installation and maintenance of electrical systems are crucial for ensuring the safety of individuals and property.